Welcome to Let's Talk Near Death, the podcast show where we talk about life, death, and experiences somewhere in between. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, the host of the show, and you can join me as I talk to everyday people with not so everyday experiences. Let's talk near death. So joining me today, we've got Nancy Grignon from Lafayette in Colorado. So Nancy, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk today. Thank you.
Yep, me too. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah.
So you had your near-death experience. Tell us a little bit about that.
My near-death when I was 18. And it was one of the multiple experiences that I've had this lifetime. I sort of came in with one foot here and one foot there. I came in with awareness and knowing more of who I am than most people. So the near death at 18 was 1971. So it was about 4 years before Raymond Moody even coined the term near death. So there wasn't any vernacular, There wasn't any knowing of.
There was nothing, was there?
No.
Wow.
And it wasn't until later that it all started to come back to me and to recognize what had happened to me actually came back in a flash, sort of like, oh my God, that's right.
What do you mean came back? Did you block it out? Was it quite emotional?
All I can tell you is that I don't recall it at the age of 18. I don't recall the memory of it at the age 18. I don't think there was any way to hold that. I know the memory of it all, but not that it was a near death. I didn't know what happened to me.
Right.
It wasn't in my awareness. It wasn't until I think I really started to do my introspective path and started meditation and started focusing inward that it was all revealed to me. And that's also that piece. I knew when as a child that who I was not fully here. It was like I had one foot here and I had one foot out there. And
so you felt like that from the very beginning of your life?
From the very beginning.
What made you feel like that? What sort of things was it that made you feel that way?
One of the first memories I had was of my baby brother, my younger brother, a little less than 2 years old from me. And he was in his crib. And we had a very large home, nannies and people taking care of us. Our parents were very busy business people. And he was crying and nobody was coming to get him out of his nap. And so I went into his room. I remember I couldn't even reach the blinds to it was a nap time. So I wanted the sun to come. And I remember reaching through the crib, grabbing onto his hand and telling him and loving him. And I told him, I will not leave you. I will never leave you.
Oh, wow.
And I connected with him in such a manner of heart that's how I knew who I am. Oh my God, I'm this loving feeling. These are adult words now, right? But the feeling of love from my brother and a commitment to take care of him was imprinted in me at a very young age. And this story, hopefully we'll get to that piece of it. My brother and I were extremely close all through our childhood. We had a pretty unusual childhood. And one of the pieces is my brother eventually committed suicide.
Oh no.
And so I've had these really huge life-changing moments come up, and the near death was one of them. All of them though, right? It's sort of like we talked before, little breadcrumbs that came through to wake me up and to wake me up and to wake me up.
Yeah.
But I came in knowing that I was much more than this. As a young girl, like around 7 or 8, I used to lie on the grass, stare up into the sky, and take myself to the edges of infinity.
What do you mean by that?
I used to, to feel good right? Rather than being playing with my friends, I would want to lie in the grass and imagine myself out of my body and way, way out at the farthest reaches of the universe. And I used to tell myself, go to the edges of infinity. And I knew, well, there are no edges of infinity. Well, then is that the edge? And I would go and I would go. And that's how I felt comfortable as a young child. That's a little odd.
Wow, yeah, for a 7-year-old, normally they're all focused on playing with friends, and it's quite a selfish age at 7. I was selfish at 7. My daughter was, yeah.
I've always been a very inward turned, quiet, introspective, very shy. I've always known I was going to do public speaking, and I never knew how that would happen. And I'm starting to do that now. But these pieces came into my life to sort of like little wake-up calls, like doors that open or window blinds that go up or veils that are lifted. There's so many terms to this.
Yeah.
So
wow. Yeah, I have so many questions for you, Nancy. Let's start back at the beginning. Well, not quite the beginning. You're 18 years old when you had your near-death experience. What was going on? What caused that experience to happen?
I got a high fever, and I was put into the local hospital. So this is in Marin County, in the San Francisco Bay Area. I lived in California then. That's where I was born and raised. And they put me in the hospital. They couldn't find anything wrong with me but the fever. So they didn't want me out with the general population. So they put me into isolation in a room that had nothing there. They couldn't bring me flowers. My family couldn't come visit me. Only my mother was with me, because they didn't want to take a chance that I could have something, contagious. And so my brothers and sisters couldn't come, or anybody. My fever was killing me. And they took me out of bed and they were putting me in, I remember this white room, very sterile white tile room, and like a steel tub. And they were putting me in the steel tub in the water to literally drastically reduce my fever. That's what it felt like. It was shocking. But when you're that hot, it's going to be shocking. And that's when it happened. And that's when I died. And it was as quick as, right? Because there's no time. So for me, in my memory of it, it was dropping the body. I didn't go through a tunnel of light. That wasn't my experience. I was immediately into what I considered who I am, which is a light body. I feel like I'm a spark of light. I think we're all sparks of light, organically at the very root of who we are. And my experience was that's who I was. I had no form of a body. I knew who I was. And the experience led to these other beings telling me that I had completed what I needed to do here this lifetime, and that I didn't need to go back. That's unusual again, because most of the time you do, you have to go back. But I was, your soul's contract was finished. Everybody always wants to know what my soul's contract is.
I was just about to ask that.
I can only guess. I wasn't told what my soul's contract was, or I don't remember.
Wow.
I think it was because of my father, and that's a whole other thing. We don't need to go down that road.
Okay.
He left me at an early age, and I never saw him again.
Okay.
Much later. And then they said, but if you would like to see a life preview, we can show you what your future would like if you wanted to go back. And I said yes. And they showed me a movie. And in this movie, I had 2 boys, 2 children. Now,
can you just explain, sorry, details here. I'm a bit of a details person. Can you explain, you're in this light body, you're with these beings. How many beings were there, and did you know them?
I would say 2. That's what I recall. I would say probably 2. But as I'm saying that, that's not right. It's literally infinite. It was like infinite. But in my mind's eye right now, it's like myself, like a triangle. Myself, 2 other beings, like a triangle.
And what was around you? You said you didn't go through the tunnel, you didn't see the white light. You're looking at this on a screen?
No, you're in it. You were in it. It's like you're in a place. It's like you're in a space, but it's all energy. It's not like a space, like a room. It's not like you're in a room or a hall. So I never had defined spaces. Nothing was defined for me. My sense is to this day that I would have the same experience when I do pass, because there's a part of me that knows I don't need any form there.
Yeah.
Form isn't necessary. We think form, right? We have a body and we need a house and we need other bodies. For me, it wasn't that. It's just energy. So I would say it was like, I'm looking like this, like it was floating energy more than anything.
Okay. And so you're having this life preview rather than review. You've seen that you're going to have 2 boys.
Yes.
Yep.
And
you were aware that you were dead, weren't you?
Yes. So and I was 18 though. So, but I've always had a very, very deep love for children and for seniors, actually, both ends of the spectrum. And I really wanted to have children. So I did say yes, and I did come back. And I do have 2 boys. I have a son who is 40 and I have a son who's 38.
Wow. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did you see on your preview?
That's all I remember. That's all I remember was that. I think if I had seen more, I might have said,
I'm staying here. Yeah.
No. But actually, I've had a blessed life, to tell you the truth.
Oh, great.
Absolutely blessed life.
So then what happened when you came back into your body?
The next memory I have was being in the bed and a nurse being like literally right here, right in my face, soothing me. She was talking to me, calming me down, soothing me, saying, you're okay, you're okay. And my fever was broken. So as quick as I got it, as quick it was gone. It was literally created for me to pass. I know that in every cell of my body.
Because they never found any reason for the fever, did they?
No. Oh, they tested me, and I'm sorry to tell you, brutally tested me for almost 3 years afterwards.
Seriously?
Trying to find the answer to how I was so sick.
Wow. How frustrating was that when you know what it was all about?
Well, it wasn't until later that I figured it out, but I tell you, I went to my doctor. He was my primary physician. I hadn't seen him for years now because I was grown and I didn't go back to my childhood doctor. I went back to tell him because I knew he was retiring and I wanted to let him know my experience. And I went back to him and I told him, and he was so happy to hear. He said, I knew there was something. I knew there was something. He was so grateful that I told him. He said, I feel like I can finally wrap up your case because my file was huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me what happened to you. And he was very grateful. So it was a nice full circle. Nice.
Oh, that's really great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've come back. Did you come back with any feeling of a specific purpose or something that you needed to do? Or did you feel, you said that you'd fulfilled your purpose and you could have stayed there, you could have died?
You know, I don't think I even went to all of that. I didn't know if, yes, on this side, I absolutely know I have a purpose. That's grown and evolved as I've grown and evolved, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it happens. But I've always been introspective. I've always been sort of like a deep sea diver inside. So somebody would call me a seeker. I have done lots of reading. I've done amazing, retreats and teachers. I've been looking at every aspect. It's sort of like, I wasn't raised with any religion. And so on Sundays, I would go to different churches just to sort of say, oh, well, what do they think? But I never had any of, I was never groomed and I never conditioned with any religious, belief systems. So it was the same thing with this. Is like, what is this? And what are other people, thinking about this? So Buddhism and, you name it, I've sort of read it and talked about it. And then it's sort of like a bell that rings. You just like, oh yes, that feels right to me. And you find I've been looking for the right ring that matches who I am inside.
Yeah. So your experience wasn't spiritual at all?
I would say it was more than spiritual. I mean, who I am, what I knew with that near death, I know who I am. I tell people, and some people have trouble with me saying this, I know that I have a body, but I'm not the body.
Yeah.
And I know that I am, but I'm not Nancy. This is my wonderful, life that I get to have. And this is the form I use. And I have wonderful children and grandchildren now. But really who I am when I die next time and this body drops, I'm not dying. I continue on. I believe that we are that spark of light and we go back home to the spark of light. You want to call that heaven. We come home to God. All kinds of ways to describe it.
Yeah.
All kinds of ways to describe it. And we all have just a little bit different description, but it's all the same thing in my world.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's so interesting to hear. Your story is a little bit different to some of the other ones that I've heard so far. And I think that's really exciting because it just shows that they are so personal and they are all different. I love it. So you've had this preview, you've come back. Did you experience any after effects?
So now, again, as you grow through your life, I am clairaudient, so I can hear. I can also sense, so clairsentience, right? I can do some clairvoyance. I don't do any of this as a profession. It's just me. It's not what I do.
And that's new since you had your NDE. That's not something you had as a child.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've always been, I'm sure, empathetic as a child, right? Feeling, that's why I wanted to probably be out on the lawn by myself and going to the edges of infinity rather than with all the kids and my family and the disorder in my household.
Yeah.
I think that was a protection mechanism because I'm an empath. And I don't think, I know I am. And as a young child, I was much happier being by myself or with my brother, Jim. He and I were two little peas in a pod.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he, you said that he committed suicide. Did he do that before your NDE or after?
After. Many years after. Yeah, many years after.
Okay.
And he's with me every day.
Yeah, you feel him?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, how neat. Yeah. So you've got these extra senses that you didn't have before your NDE.
Right. Yep. And I've learned how to use them more again when you get more quiet and you have an introspective life. And for me, meditation really helped. And the processes that I used really helped. I've tried a little bit of everything to see what would bring me more of answers. And I don't want answers here. I want answers in my heart and in my gut. It's a knowing. It's like I know, when I know something, I know it inside of me, not here. So it's not, you can go ahead and read a book, but it's really the information that gets activated and gets turned on inside. And I think it's just basically we're waking up to who we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's
absolutely.
So I sort of just play every day with waking up, and what I do also is I do coaching and I help people, help them remember who they are. And it's quite a gift. It really is.
So you're helping people remember who they are outside of this world?
No, within this world, because we're not outside. We're here. We're supposed to. We have a body, right? We are in the world, but how can we find peace, and where can we find that place of comfort inside? It's going to be different for everybody. right?
Yeah.
Just for me, I happen to really desire an introspective life, but there might be some people that really want to have much more of an outward life, and they're a homemaker and they're raising children and they're struggling with how to raise their children. I sort of talk to them and help them find the infinite answers that they have inside. And when they start to know and recognize, well, like, what else is inside? And so it's just a sort of turning another direction and helping people recognize that we're more than just this body, that we really have well, it's not have a connection, we are that. It's not even having a connection, we are this, I like to call it awareness, or some people call it consciousness, this beingness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I absolutely believe that we're more than what we are here physically in our bodies.
Yeah.
I can't not believe that there's something greater out there, that we're all part of some connected thing that's beyond what we can see in this world. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
When you just said that, for me, what I would say is, I've been holding it out there, but it actually is all in here.
Yeah, for me, it absolutely is. For me, it's very internal.
Right.
But I don't necessarily share a lot of that externally. I keep it to myself. And that's a little bit like you saying you're lying on the grass. Would that be fair to say? You're keeping that experience to yourself?
I kept it to myself up until 2 years ago, or maybe 2.5 years ago. And I started to know that I was supposed to speak about this. And it was like, I'm not telling anybody about my near death.
Yeah.
No, I'm not telling you about that.
They'll think I'm crazy.
Yeah, no. And believe me, it's a mixed bag what you get with people.
Yeah.
And so I did take a chance, and I spoke at a wonderful group here, a local IONS group in Denver. And they were so supportive of me, because I was terrified. I was just terrified. I had no idea what was going to come out of my mouth. And that's even on this little talk now. I don't plan anything. And it was cathartic. It was like, wow, that is really good. That felt so good to do. And people's feedback was, thank you. I'm not crazy. People are hiding who they are. And when they hear other people experiencing these, other unusual experiences, it literally acknowledges who they are inside. And then they're not going to hide out either. We can't hide anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked a little bit before about Raymond Moody, about how when he did his research, because he was one of the pioneers in near-death experiences.
Right.
When he started to do his research and you came across some of this, how did that make you feel?
The first word I'm going to say is scared, but that's not right.
Did you feel validated that your experience, I don't know if validated is the right word either.
No, I think the challenge was I've never fit in the box, right? And some people literally dismiss my near death, and that is totally fine. I'm not here to make a case for anybody. I don't care. But you didn't go through the tunnel of light, and you didn't have a cardiac machine on you, so there's no way they could prove it. You know what? That's all. We can attack this 20 million different ways.
Yeah.
Nobody will take this away from me.
Exactly.
Nobody can take this away. It was my gift, and some reason I'm supposed to share it, and it's not comfortable sometimes to do that, because most people, I can tell you, if this does happen to go on your show, and I linked it on my Facebook, I would have some very shocked friends.
Yeah, I think most of my friends don't know what I do. They don't know my story. Like you say, I think every experience is very individual, very personalized. I had an experience where I had a living person involved in mine, and I haven't come across anybody else out there who's had somebody who hasn't passed away involved in their near-death experience. So I think we've got to take it. If there's no tunnel, we're not here to make a story. We're not here for hype. These things, when you experience what we've experienced, it's something that's just, it's so in you that you can't deny it. You can't do anything with it, and you're not going to turn it into a story for the sake of a story.
Well,
So,
that's
yeah.
the challenge. People say, "Oh, I want to, I want you to speak and tell your story." And I'm starting to say, my story will be a small part of it, but it isn't about the story. It's about what you do with it. It's about what you do with our life. It isn't about all these experiences. I mean, I had the sense of I disappear for 18 hours. It informed me on a level that I now know who I am inside. I know who I am because of that. But it isn't because I had this experience. That happened, and this is what it did for me for some reason. And I'm supposed to share it because for me, at least, it's when it seems to have helped people.
Yeah.
In a myriad of ways. And it's not that I have the way it's supposed to help them, but we all are just sort of waking up individually in all of these different modalities and paths, and it's all like this huge tapestry, and I have one thread, and this thread is now moving today with you doing something.
Exactly. We don't need to know the bigger picture. We don't need to know the plan or the goal or what the tapestry looks like, what color our thread is.
Or
I think we just need to be
the tapestry your way. That's
we just be the thread. Just have our life, be in life.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So I get a lot of questions from people. I guess they're looking for answers. They're wanting to know, what is the key thing you've taken away from your experience? What is the thing that you think I, as a non-experiencer, should do, or way I should live my life? What's your key message? Do you have one, or is that a little bit too hard to even describe?
On my business cards, it says remembering the truth of who we are. So for me, it is, if someone wants to hear, I'm not here to make anybody listen to anything. I mean, really, honestly, I'm much more back inside and being led than me. So whatever comes up is what happens. And I think for me, we are not just this body. And a lot of people are suffering, and they're in pain, and they're sad, and they're scared. And there's so much going on in the world right now. We don't need to get into, we know what we're talking about. There's so many facets. And if I could help someone find a place inside where they can find a little bit of peace in the midst of this, and maybe even a little spark will come on of like, oh, I can carry this peace with me more often. I can help them find where that maybe is inside. That's pretty good.
That's brilliant. That's it. So a lot of your message is around connecting with your internal self, being, letting go.
I think the place of silence and being in presence is where our answers are. I get more answers in silence than I do from talking. I think words are so limited and so challenging, especially for me, because I feel things and I hear things and I see things, and words are flat.
Yeah.
Words don't have, and then they have, 100 different meanings to, 10,000 different people. Just to do the word God, someone in one of my talks was upset with me because I didn't use the word God. For me, that word is so loaded that I'm afraid to use it.
Yeah.
Because mine isn't. I even have a perception that God, as a child, was a man in a chair up in heaven.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. So I try to use the little different words that don't have this, but the other pieces, I think one of my important pieces I like to tell people is to keep your belief systems malleable, because we get to find about our conditioned belief systems and we don't recognize how we keep ourselves in boxes. And I think we really, if we could be a little bit more open, we can recognize more about ourselves and about the world, and really how you can carry peace within you. If we can get out of maybe so much thought dialogue going by. and work with it by being aware of it rather than following it and following the story of your thought. If you could just be aware of it, let it go like a cloud in the sky, and just stay with your presence. It's all a bunch of words. I can feel it right now. It feels like a lot of words.
There are quite a lot of words, aren't there? And I totally agree. Words, sometimes they just don't do something any justice. They're so limiting.
Yeah.
My final question for you, Nancy, is do you long to go back there? Do you long to be in that space again?
Yes. Yeah. But I do go in that space again. So I can take myself out of body. I feel like I go to some place that I happen to call the void, where it's some place that I feel like I can go to rejuvenate. It's like a place that I get replugged in again without a body. So I have places I can go. I'm not ready to die. I have a wonderful life. I have a beautiful 8-year-old grandchild and children and husband, and I'm happy. But when I go, have zero fear.
Yeah.
It's just a dropping of the body. And I don't die. I'm not gone. It's just on to a new adventure. It's on to another reality, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, like another phase in the journey, another place.
It's another phase in the journey, but the core of who I am, the spark of who I am, is never going to die.
Nancy, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. This has just been wonderful. I love to hear how unique it is. I love to hear how it's taught you to connect with yourself and how you're helping others now to connect with themselves and to tap into that place of healing and freedom, I suppose. So Nancy, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
We wish you the best. And yeah, that's been great. Thank you, Nancy.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast show. If you've enjoyed it, please share it with your friends, tell people about it. I'd love to get these messages out there. You can also connect with me on Facebook at Kirsty Salisbury Official, and you can subscribe to receive updates for new episodes as they come about. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, and this is Let's Talk Near Death.